Right, let's explore some of the culture and diversity of this realm. We are especially going to focus on India, and we will be talking about patterns of religion and language as usual, but we are also going to talk about Bollywood towards the end. So, this is the last time we are going to see this map. And we've been looking at this map repeatedly all semester long, looking at the languages that we think came from here in the Caucasus Mountains, and that those early ancient Indo-European languages, whoop, there we go, went to the west and seeded those languages all over Europe, but they also moved to the east. And we talked about them being in Iran in languages like Farsi and Kurdish. And now the last place that the Indo-European languages landed and influenced, and where the languages evolved into modern languages, is in India, right? This is the other part of that Indo-European here in India. So the languages moved to the east and came down this part of the subcontinent. And so these Indo-European peoples, we think they may have brought some of the religious influences into the area, just because they're so different from many of the other religions. But we're not sure about that. What they did definitely bring was languages. And some of the modern languages that have evolved from the Indo-European proto-languages are Urdu, which is found in Pakistan, and Hindi, which is found in India. It is the most widespread of the languages. Now, it's really important that you differentiate between Hindi, with an I at the end, from Hindu, with a U at the end. Okay? Hindi, with an I, is the language. Hindu, that is the religion or the philosophy. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But Hindi is the language. Okay? So here is a map of the major language families in South Asia, and you can see that we have a whole bunch of this orange color and some of that yellow. These languages are the Indo-European languages. They are the languages that evolved from those Proto-Indo-Europeans. And then we've got a different group that is found down here towards the bottom of the peninsula. Okay? So the yellow and the orange, those are the Indo-European languages, and this is the direction that those people came in, right? They came down into the continent, moving this way. Iran is right here, right? And so people continue to migrate. And as they came in, they pushed the people who were already there, the people who spoke this aqua color, the language is represented by that aqua color. They push them further and further south. Okay? And this aqua color, those are the Dravidian languages. And these are the languages that had been there before the Indo-European people arrived. They were the indigenous languages. Okay? And the most famous, probably, maybe the most well-known, is Tamil. It's not the most widespread, but there's another language that is more widespread, but you don't need to know that one. But Tamil is probably the oldest language in the world that is still spoken. We talked about Basque, and it's definitely the oldest one in Europe. But I was just reading that there's some new evidence that Tamil may be the oldest language still being spoken. So that is a pretty interesting piece there. Okay? And we'll talk about Tamil again when we talk about movies. But we definitely have this divide where the northern parts of our realm is dominated by the Indo-European languages, the languages that evolved from them. And then the southern part of the cone, we have the languages that were originally here, the indigenous languages, the languages that evolved from that, and those are called the Dravidian languages. And you can actually draw a line across the cone there and see the difference. Okay? So there's the overall pattern, but I hope you're also seeing that we have some other languages here. We have a different group here up in the north. Sorry, my mouse is misbehaving. There we go. We have this kind of dark brown color, and those are languages that are related to what we talked about in Tibet. These are Tibeto-Burman languages. Those are more related to Chinese. Okay? But I hope that you also saw that we have a bit of blue, that aqua color right there, which means that that's a Dravidian language. So we've got an island of Dravidian surrounded by Indo-European languages. Why? Why do you think that might be there? We've been practicing looking at anomalies on maps and trying to come up with reasons all semester long, and we've talked a lot about the link between the physical geography and the cultural geography. So putting all of those things we've talked about together, what do you think might account for that? So hopefully, what your first thought was mountains, and that is exactly what we have here. If we look at the mountains there, you can see there is a range of mountains. And in the midst of that fairly rugged terrain there, that is where we have that Dravidian language. And so this Dravidian group managed to retreat to these higher elevations, and they retained their culture and they retained their language. So we have an anomaly and we can analyze it, and we can see the link between the physical and the cultural geography. Okay. All right, I'm going to pause here and we'll come back and talk about patterns of religion in this area. Oh, I realize there's one more thing that I wanted to say. Another reason that language is very important in this area, and we've talked about identity repeatedly, right, through the semester, that language is very important for that. The states in India are based around languages. That is actually how they drew the state lines. So that's another piece of identity in this area. Languages are very linked to the states in India. Okay. All right, I'll see you in the religion chunks.